earlier this year, I started coming up with special types of episodes sa ating podcast. Aside from the regular long-form episodes, meron tayong 80% express na episodes. So these are short-form episodes wherein I share a financial concept or answer a question by a listener. So far, marami na tayong mga dinidiscuss dun sa 80% express na mga behavioral biases. I think there's already 11 of them. But for today, I will feature 5. So pag sinabing biases, kasi yung utak natin, laging may dalawang system yan. Merong system 1 and system 2. So yung unang system, very instinctual. So instinct, kung ano yung unang maisip niya, yun yung sasabihin niya. And kailangan natin yung instinct natin to survive. And it's something that we develop very early doon sa evolution ng tao. Dahil, syempre, pag may nakita kang leon, hindi ka na mag-iisip kung tatakbo ka o hindi, di ba? Dapat tatakbo ka or magtatago ka. But there's a sense of danger pag may nakita kang leon. So, yung system 1 yung nag-rule over. Kasi, hindi mo kailangan mag-analyze, hindi mo kailangan maging critical. So, yun yung instinct mo. Yung system 2, yun yung more analytical na ito yung naghihimay, nag-analyze ng situation or ng information, and it will think of the proper response pag nangyari yon. So, kung may nakita kang leon, syempre ang system 1 sasabihin mo, magtago ka or tumakbo ka or get ready to fight the lion kasi yun yung system 1. Pero yung system 2 biglang magkikick in na, teka lang. Yung nakikita mong leon na yan, holographic image lang. So, illusion lang siya. Meron lang mga laser something dyan dito sa museum kung nasaan ka. So, hindi totoo yung lion na yan. So, yung system 2, na-analyze niya yung situation na hindi totoo yung lion. If you look at your surrounding, where you are, if you become more aware of the situation, you'll understand that this is just a holographic image. So, you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to do anything. So, ganun siya usually. So pag sinabi natin behavioral biases, may tendency kasi tayo sa behavior natin na yung instinctual yung action natin. Minsan, hindi tayo dumadating or hindi natin hinihintay mag-kick in yung system 2. So yung system 1 pa lang, nagtitake na tayo ng action, and pag ginagawa natin parati yon, it can be bad for our personal finance. Okay? So the first one is yung loss aversion. So what is loss aversion? Loss aversion is our tendency to feel the pain of losses more intensely than the pleasure of gains. So in other words, we tend to be more sensitive to losses than we are to gains of the same magnitude. So this is one of the episodes of the 80% Express. Pwede nyo siyang hanapin at pakinggan yung full episode. Yung What is Loss Aversion yung title ng episode natin. So ang ibig sabihin ng loss aversion, given the same magnitude, parang mas intense yung feeling natin dun sa loss. For example, kung bibigyan ka ng 1,000 pesos, bibigyan kita ng 1,000 pesos, syempre matutuwa ka. Pero kung mawawalan ka ng 1,000 pesos, malulungkot ka. If you think about it, pareho yung magnitude. Binigyan kita ng 1,000 pesos, tsaka nawalan ka ng 1,000 pesos. Pero yung pain of losing 1,000 pesos, mas intense yung emotion mo doon versus sa joy of receiving 1,000 pesos. So, yung magnitude ng loss is greater, yung intensity niya. And this is the reason why we usually avoid feeling losses. So, ang magandang example niyan that is related to personal finance is yung choosing suboptimal investments with low risk over better ones with high risk. Mas nakikita ko yan sa medyo older generation na preferred pa rin talaga nila na mag-invest lang sa mga low risk investment katulad ng time deposit. No, meron akong nakausap na high net worth individual, as in successful business, milyonaryo, etc. Pero isipin nyo, meron siyang 6 million pesos sa time deposit. So sabi ko, para saan po yung 6 million pesos na yan? Para yan sa retirement ko. So sabi ko, itong kausap natin, mid-40s, no? So ibig sabihin kung magre-retire siya at 60, that's still more than 10 years of her life. So yung 6 million na nasa time deposit, sayang. Sana ininvest na lang niya sa isang equity fund kung takot siya sa stock market talaga, di ba? But sabi ko, you could transfer it to the equity market, either invest directly in stocks, yung mga blue chip companies, or an equity fund, an equity growth fund. Pero natatakot siya kasi nababalitaan niya, nakikita niya na you could lose money in the stock market, which is true. The stock market is a high risk, high return investment. So, since takot siya na mawalan ng pera, doon na lang siya sa sabihin natin quote-unquote safe and low risk na time deposit. Okay? So, bakit naka-quote-unquote safe? Kasi syempre, yung interest rate ng time deposit, it will never be as high as the inflation rate. So, kahit na nakikita mo lumalaki yung pera mo sa isang time deposit, natutuwa ka. Pero because of inflation, the purchasing power of that money is still going down. And after 15 years, yung value o yung purchasing power ng pera mo is smaller compared to as if you invested it in an asset like the stock market that grows more than the inflation rate. Then after 15 years, yung purchasing power mo is now bigger than what it was decades ago or many years ago. So yun yung loss aversion. Takot tayo na mawalan, kaya hindi tayo sumusugal. Yeah, parang pag-ibig lang. So anong gagawin natin sa loss aversion? Of course, ang important dyan to manage yung loss aversion is to really be analytical, to be critical. Hayaan natin na mag-kick in yung system 2 na ano ba talaga yung situation. So pagdating sa stock market, we can look at the historical performance. So historically speaking, ang stock market naman talaga nagre-recover. Ang question lang talaga is kailan or how many years, ano yung cycle niya. And then, syempre yung specific types of investments, hindi naman pare-pareho ang stocks, hindi naman pare-pareho ang mga equity fund. We become more analytical, no? So, once we are more educated about how to properly design our investment portfolio, we define yung financial goals natin, alam natin yung we analyze yung ating financial situation, mga future needs natin, then we can be smarter with our investment strategy. Hindi lang yung basta-basta, ayoko sa stock market kasi ayoko mawalan ng pera. So, we should not let our instinct, our aversion to loss take over our financial decisions. Next, cognitive bias is yung framing effect. The framing effect is a cognitive bias that occurs when our decisions are influenced by how information is presented or framed. So the same information can be presented in different ways, leading to different outcomes based on how it is stated. Ang favorite ko example dito ay yung VUL. Nako, yan. Hello sa mga ating kaibigan na financial advisor or mga insurance agent. So, yung VUL, napapansin ko, dalawang paraan yan na binibenta. Okay? So, yung una, bumili ka ng life insurance. Maganda to kasi may kasama na siyang investment. That's the first one. Yung second way na binibenta siya is, maganda tong VUL, this is an investment. Tapos may bonus ka pang life insurance. Diba? So sa mga tao na naghahanap ng investment, usually, binibili nila yung VUL thinking that it is an investment. Kasi investment yung present sa kanila. This is an investment na may kasamang life insurance. Ganun siya. However, syempre, ang situation ng bawat tao, iba-iba. Kung kailangan mo ng insurance, kung kailangan mo ng financial protection, which is very important, then dapat yun yung priority mo. Pero, kung kinuha mo yung VUL, which is actually a life insurance product, kaya nga ang nagbebenta niyan or nakukuha mo ang VUL sa mga insurance companies, di ba? So if you buy a VUL, you're actually buying an insurance product, a life insurance product na meron lang nakadikit na investment. So, kapag finrame sa'yo ng isang financial advisor na this is an investment na merong life insurance benefits, they are trying to trick you with the framing effect. Kasi nga, mas attractive na marinig na I'm getting an investment, di ba? But to be honest, ang VUL, it is a life insurance product. So, you get a VUL if you need financial protection. Bonus na lang yung investment part. And in fact, what I say is, yung investment part ng VUL, it is actually inflation-adjusted benefit. Ibig sabihin, kung ngayon, kailangan mo ng 3 million pesos na death benefit kasi breadwinner ka, etc. Siyempre, in the future, tumataas yung net worth mo, you might have more dependents, no? Nadagdagan ka na ng anak, etc. So, since merong investment part yung VUL, there will come a point na mas mataas na yung investment part or tataas yung cash value or death benefit mo dun sa VUL na yon. And that means, hindi mo na kailangan kumuha ng additional life insurance policies in the future kasi nako-cover na siya doon sa growth nung investment part nung VUL. So, yun yung advantage niya. It's an inflation-adjusted life insurance. No? It's an life insurance that adjusts with inflation. Kasi kung kumuha ka lang ng term insurance, so fix yung death benefit mo, in the future, kapag tumaas yung net worth mo, nagkaroon ka ng additional dependents, syempre hindi na yun mako-cover nung current death benefit mo and plus inflation pa. So you would need to get additional policies in the future to cover yung life insurance requirement mo. So yun yung advantage ng VUL dahil meron siyang investment component. So again, it is a life insurance product. And para sa akin, no, dapat hindi natin siya binibenta as an investment na may life insurance benefit. And that's an example of the framing effect. Marami tayong mga instances, not just in personal finance but also in other aspects of our life na nagiging victim tayo ng framing effect. So, ang cure or ang strategy to manage yung framing effect is again to be critical, to analyze ano ba tong gagawin natin, ano ba tong binibili natin. Kasi doon lang natin siya fully that's the only way that we can fully understand what we are getting. Okay? So let system 2 kick in. So be critical, be analytical. One of my earlier blog posts was about the sunk cost fallacy. And it is our tendency to continue doing something simply because we have already invested time, money, or effort. So even when the current or future benefits are minimal or non-existent. Ang example natin dito is yung refusing to cut loss on a stock that has minimal upside. So, ibig sabihin, bumili ka ng stock, bumili ka ng isang company, bumaba siya, ayaw mo mag-cut loss kasi you're hoping na, hindi, aakyat pa yan in the future, no? Ayaw mo kasing ibenta dahil pag binenta mo yun, lugi ka na. Kasi yung paper losses mo, ma-realize mo. So, ayaw mo ibenta, but because you are letting sayang yung nilagay ko di ba? You're letting the sunk cost fallacy take over. The cure there is tanungin mo, ano nga bang future prospect nitong company na to, di ba? So kung aakyat pa naman to, sa tingin ko it's just the economy that's making it perform badly, then you can wait it out. Pero kung wala talaga siyang potential upside, wala nang mangyayari, then might as well cut losses, no? Kasi nabili mo na di ba? Isang practical example or illustration of the sunk cost fallacy na madalas ko ring binibigay na example is pag nanood ka ng sine, bumili ka ng ticket, pumasok ka sa loob ng sinihan. Tapos, yung pelikula ang pangit. As in 30 minutes ka palang nanonood, hindi mo talaga siya gusto. So, ang tanong is, lalabas ka ba ng sinihan or tatapusin mo yung pelikula? Siguro, 8 out of 10 na nakausap ko, 80% na nakausap ko, they will stay dun sa pelikula. Tatapusin nila yung pelikula kahit na hindi nila gusto or napapangitan sila. Yung dalawa, sabi nila, lalabas sila. If you think about it, nabili mo na yung ticket. So, sunk cost na siya. Ibig sabihin, hindi mo na mababalik yon kahit anong gawin mo. Di ba? So magstay ka man sa sinihan or umalis ka, hindi na babalik yung pera na pinabili mo ng ticket. So ang choice mo lang at that point is, ano yung, ang pinagpipilian mo lang is either you will stay inside the movie house and be miserable for the next hour, or go out of the cinema and find something else to do. Find something more productive to do. So, ito yung sunk cost fallacy na ang initial instinct natin is sayang yung nilabas natin na pera o sayang yung pinabili ko ng ticket, tapusin ko na lang to. Diba? So, that means titiisin mo yung the rest of the movie that is probably bad dahil yung first 30 minutes hindi mo na nagustuhan, di ba? Minsan, i-justify mo na lang sa isip mo na hindi, okay naman yung pelikula kahit na talagang pangit na pangit ka. Hindi, okay naman yung pelikula kasi nanghihinayang ka dun sa nilabas mo. But it is already a sunk cost and it's better to accept the reality na hindi mo na maibabalik to. Regardless of what you do next, it will no longer affect yung initial expense mo. Okay? So, may mga practical and more common na scenarios kung saan nag-i-exhibit itong sunk cost fallacy. So, we have to be very aware of what's happening sa mga situation that we encounter. Okay? What is the anchoring effect? It is a cognitive bias where our decision-making is influenced by the first piece of information we receive, which serves as an anchor for our subsequent judgment. Ang example natin dito is anchoring on the first price you encounter when you're shopping for an item. Okay. So, anong magandang example dito? Recently, mayroon akong friend na naghahanap ng sandals. Okay? Naghahanap siya ng sandals kasi masisira na yung walking shoes niya. Yan. So, sabi niya, sandals or sneakers. And hindi ako kasama doon sa shopping niya, pero nagte-text kasi kami dahil alam niya mahilig ako sa sneakers. Nagtatanong siya saan maganda pumunta. Ngayon, meron daw siya nakita sa isang branded na store na yung sandals is 4,000 pesos. Ayan. So sabi ko, medyo mahal yan. Kasi sandals na walking shoes, everyday shoes, hindi niya kailangan ng branded or hindi niya kailangan ng anything na medyo may mga technical features, no? So, okay, mahal pala dito. Sige. So, nagbigay ako ng mga boutiques or mga shops na pwede niyang puntahan. So, meron siyang pumunta doon sa Next. Sabi niya, ito mura na to, 3,500, no? Sabi ko, hindi, mahal pa rin yan kasi yung sandals na kailangan mo, kung ako ang bibili niyan, I think sa department store, makakabili ka ng mga around 1,500 or 2,000 pesos or even 1,000 pesos, yung mga durable brands na acceptable na for daily use. So, sabi ko, hindi mura. Sabi niya, mura na to, 3,500 kasi yung una kong nakita na nagustuhan ko, 4,000. So, naging victim siya ng anchoring effect. Kasi yung una niya nakita na 4,000, doon nag-anchor yung price. Pero syempre, ako, since mas aware ako sa mga different prices ng sandals, kasi mahilig din ako sa sandals or sa sneakers, sa mga walking shoes, usually ang binibili ko, mga around 2,000 pesos lang, less than 2,000 pa nga eh. So, siya, naging victim siya ng anchoring effect, kaya yung 3,500 na nakita niya, namurahan siya. We should always make an effort to have lots of reference points. Hindi pwedeng 2-3 reference points or data points lang yung kino-consider natin. It's always good to have, ako siguro at least 5 na pwede nating i-check para magkaroon tayo ng mas accurate na range ng price ng isang item. The magnitude becomes greater kapag high-ticket item na yung binibili natin. I remember a friend na bibili ng second-hand car. So, syempre yung second-hand car, iba-iba talaga yung price niyan. Meron siyang isang nakita na second-hand car, 800,000 pesos. Sabi ko, second-hand na yan, 800. Kasi ang alam ko, pag second-hand car na maayos-ayos pa yung mga 5 years, around 5 years pa lang na nagagamit, dapat mga 400,000, 500,000 pesos yan, no? Pero yung 800,000, sana konti na lang idadagdag mo, brand new na yung nakuha mo. Pero sabi niya, ang anchor niya kasi yung brand new. Sabi niya ang brand new kasi nitong model na to is 1 million, 1.1 million. So nung nakakita siya ng second hand na 800,000, namurahan siya. Kasi okay na to for a second hand, di ba? 800,000, malaki na from the brand new price of 1.2. So sabi ko, hindi pwedeng isa lang. Magtanong ka sa iba't ibang mga second hand o car shops. Tumingin ka online, tingnan mo sa mga online platforms, mga classified ads, kung magkano yung range niyang sasakyan na yan, ng model na yan. And true enough, nung nag-check siya, sabi, oo nga no, usually mga around 600 to 650 yung range siya. Mahal itong una kong nakita na 800,000. Okay? So, always be aware of the anchoring effect. Kung ano yung una mo makitang price, hindi dapat tayo nagiging victim na nag-a-anchor dun sa price na nakikita natin. Let us research, make an effort to have a lot of data points para nakikita natin yung usual range or yung correct average range of a price of an item. Lastly is yung price of free. Okay? What is the price of free? It is the hidden costs or trade-offs associated with seemingly free products, services, or offers. So it's important to recognize that there are often other costs involved, whether it's in the form of personal data, time, or quality. Ang example dito yung mga freemium apps, free seminars or courses, free shipping, free sign-up, and membership. Itong live stream natin, di ba, libre naman ito sa inyo, pero ano yung binabayad nyo dito? Ang binabayad nyo dito is of course yung oras ninyo. So syempre mahalaga ang oras natin, and instead of doing something else, you choose to watch yung live stream natin na libre naman, but don't really think of it as libre, but you're investing your time with me, and I thank you for that. But in any case, may mga apps sa cellphone na libre yung download, libre yung gamitin, especially yung mga mobile games, no? Libre siya. You can enjoy the game, pero ganun ka nila hinuhook. So, it's free to play, pero pag nagustuhan mo na yung game, you find yourself buying yung mga in-game items, you start spending. Diba? So, naintindihan ng mga mobile game developers yung ganung behavior ng tao. Ay, libre naman to, i-download ko. Pero, you have to think of it, ano yung long-term cost niyan? So, pag nagustuhan mo yan, eventually, mapapabili ka na. It's also the same with free seminars or courses. Maraming nag-o-offer ng mga free online courses, free seminars. And again, bukod sa oras na i-invest mo, that becomes an opportunity for them to upsell to you. So, syempre, pag nagustuhan mo yung seminar, yung course na in-enrollan mo, mas mataas yung chance na mag-enroll ka doon sa paid version niya. Free shipping. Nako, ito. Free shipping siya, pero kailangan mong umabot doon sa threshold. Kailangan umabot ng 1,000 pesos lahat ng binili mo para makakuha mo yung free shipping. Pero yung balak mo talagang bilhin, 600 pesos lang. So ngayon, mapipilitan kang gumastos ng additional 400 pesos para lang ma-free shipping, di ba? So, itong price of free, this is actually a marketing technique that marketers, businesses often use para mas mapagastos tayo. And we have to be aware of this. Kasi ano to again, instinctual, they target yung emotional response mo to something that is free. Kasi syempre gusto natin ng libre. If we see something that's free, we become more interested to it, and that's how they get you. And once na makuha na nila yung information mo, yung email mo kasi nag-sign up ka, o nakuha na nila yung attention mo, then that's when they implement yung mga strategies nila to convince you to buy their product. So, lahat itong mga to, these are behavioral biases, and of course, there are a lot more that we can probably discuss in the future. But yung mga na-discuss natin comes from the 80% Express episodes of our podcast.